Hey everyone, Katie Lip here, and welcome back to Cash's Queen. I am so excited to be dropping another episode for you all. It's been a minute. I've been super busy with my law practice, with my coaching business, and then also with traveling. I just got back from a 2 week vacation and I went to Scotland with my husband, just the two of us. And then we also stopped in London on the way back from Scotland. It was a whirlwind of a trip, but we spent most of our time in the Orkney Islands, which is one of the very northern islands in Scotland. Sorry if I'm not being geographically correct, but we flew from DC to Edinburgh, spent a night there, and then flew from Edinburgh to Kirkwall, which is, in the Orkney Islands area. It's a very remote part of Scotland. It was epic. It was so beautiful. And my favorite thing that we did there was we went on this, I wouldn't even call it a hike because we didn't walk for that long, but we walked up this big kind of cliff area that had just beautiful views. It looked like I kept saying, like, as we were walking up, I kept saying it looked like a dinosaur would like come around the corner at any minute. It just looked so beautiful. And the island, it's very remote. They they have the weather there is like a little crazy. We actually barely made it off the island. Our flight was canceled the first time that we were supposed to fly out because of wind. And then we finally made it off the next day, but had to fly to Glasgow and then drive from Glasgow to Edinburgh, which is like about an hour drive. But yeah, it was quite the adventure going there. My husband is a big outdoorsman. He loves to duck hunt. And one of the guides that he uses that actually we booked our honeymoon through in Mexico was setting up a European trip to Scotland. And so we were lucky enough to go, and there were actually 5 other couples that went as well. And so I got to meet other fellow duck hunting wives, hunting widows. If you know, you know. And we got to tour. They did their hunting in the morning, so they got significantly less sleep than we did. But yeah, it was a really, really fun trip. And now I'm back and I wanted to, I've had the benefit of finally going on a longer trip as a law firm owner. And this is something that a lot of us struggle with in the legal industry. I think most of us taking time off where you are able to take the time off, first of all, and you feel comfortable doing it and you have support while you're out of the office so you don't come back to a giant hot mess. And, it takes a lot of preparation to be able to go on a longer trip as a law firm owner. I always joke with law students or people that are considering going into the legal industry that if you want work-life balance, this is not the best profession for you. There's this trend, I believe, for a lot of industries where you're just expected to do things faster and kind of like run your business kind of like an Amazon type experience for the customer. And with me running a law firm where we focus on labor and employment law, where a lot of the people reaching out to us, potential clients that we're, eventually helping they're in a very emotional place. A lot of them are going through something really traumatic at their work, whether it's job loss or being placed on a performance improvement plan, or they're being, placed on administrative leave. They're very emotionally distraught when they reach out to us and they want help immediately. But it's not always a situation where they need immediate help, right? And so one of the challenges that we have as service providers is that we can't always provide that immediate assistance. Rarely can we provide that immediate assistance. I mean, most of the time we have anywhere from like a 1 to 2 week waiting period. It's very similar to doctor's practice or a physician's practice, medical practice. That's the word I was looking for. And that's how I strive to run my law firm. And so, anyways, going back to the out of office stuff, there is this challenge that we face with, being able to take time off in such a way where it doesn't impact our clients' cases. Because that's the fear, right? The fear is, we don't want any balls to drop while we're out of the office. And so there's a few things that I did for this longer trip that I wanted to share with you and just give you a peek behind the curtain, because I know there's this common pattern with law firm owners and with lawyers where they just don't take vacations, or they don't take very long vacations. And as a result, they don't get to adequately unplug from their job, and they get burned out. They leave the profession, or they just, they have health problems. They have constant stress. It's a real issue for lawyers. I mean, even, to the point of, some lawyers have mental health issues as a result of not having enough time out of the office, or God forbid, there's a higher suicide rate for attorneys. And so it really is such an important issue to talk about, and to talk about how we have these boundaries so that we can live a life outside of the law, right? At the end of the day, this is just a job. It's just a job, and it doesn't feel like that sometimes. It feels like it's heavier than that. And so there's a few things that I did in order to take this longer vacation. I think the main thing is, I have to say I'm very lucky that I do have employees, right? I wouldn't be I think I could take a longer vacation if I didn't litigate, right? But if you litigate and you have active litigation going on, and if you don't have a team helping you with cases, it's really, difficult to take time off while active litigation is going on, right? You can't just not check your emails for a couple of weeks if you have active litigation. That's just not an option that you would have available to you. So in full transparency, I have a team. Now, I haven't always had a team, but I had a team this time when I went out on vacation, and I made sure leading up to the vacation that I looped in another attorney on all my calls and on all my emails. That way, when the client reached out and needed something while I was out of the office, I had coverage, right? That's critical to have that coverage, and to make sure another person is looped in so that you're not the one that has to respond while you're out of the office. It's not a true break if you're the one that has to respond, right? And then another thing that I have to acknowledge is that I do check my emails when I'm out on vacation. I'm not just going on a 2-week vacation and not checking my emails, right? But I don't have to check my emails, right? It's something that I'm choosing to do so that I don't have to come back to a mountain of emails to sift through. Like, the last thing I want to do is spend 3 hours when I get back and zap all my energy going through a huge pile of email all at once. It's kind of like what I kind of view emails as, like, similar to? I view it as similar to laundry, right? So I'm the type of person where I like to do, a load of laundry a day. I don't have like a specific laundry day in my house. Now it's me, my husband, and my daughter, who is 10. So my husband does his own laundry. Thank you, Eric. It hasn't always been that way, but once I started a business, he's like, I'm going to start doing my own laundry. So not all heroes wear capes. But I, for the laundry situation and also for email, I like to chip away a little bit by bit, right? So when I had, a little bit of time and free time, like, let's say after touring one day, I came back to the hotel and had like 4 hours of downtime. I would take a shower. I would, like, screw around on my phone, not looking at emails, but like I spend a lot of time on Instagram on vacation, which is not something I generally do when I'm not on vacation. It's like a brain break. I'm spending more time doing stuff that I feel like doing that has no productive purpose whatsoever. And then I would check a little bit of email. I would maybe, and it's important to check emails, right? When you have space to actually pay attention to the email. Like, I don't check emails when I'm driving in the car. That's like one of the things I hate doing. I do not like looking at my phone when I'm driving or like at a red light. It's like, I know that I'm not going to be able to finish anything by the time the light turns green, and it's just going to distract me. So that's one thing. I do not check your phone while you're driving. Saving lives here on the Cash is Queen podcast. But anyways, so that's my method for kind of chipping away slowly, because the nature of my practice is that we circulate conflicts checks constantly at my firm. And if I'm not, and for those of you listening that don't know what a conflicts check is, it's when a potential client is seeking representation, we need to make sure as a law firm that we don't have a conflict of interest taking on that representation. So the way that we circulate conflicts checks at my firm is my firm relations manager sends around an email with the potential client's information to everyone, and we all respond directly to her on whether or not we have a conflict. So we have that process, and then she also cross-checks our client database to make sure that there's no conflict. And I know every firm does that differently, but if I'm, in any given day, we probably circulate maybe 6 conflicts checks. We have a lot of potential clients coming in, and we don't take on all of those clients, right? And I am the bottleneck in that intake process. So I take a look at every single potential client and dictate what happens with that potential client, whether we can take it or not. If we can't take it, who to refer it to. And so what I am working on now, and this is probably another whole nother podcast episode worthy topic, but I'm going to do a process flow chart for intakes so that when I am I can just remove myself manually from the process. But right now it is manual. But going back to the out of office protocol, I do check emails every 1 to 2 days, like while I'm on vacation. If it's a weekend, I'm probably much less inclined. I'm like, whatever, it's Sunday. Nothing is worth, checking on until the next day. I did also get internet on my flight back from London to DC. I mean, it was like a 7-hour flight. And I didn't sleep on the plane. It was, sometimes I can take a nap on the plane, but it was in the middle of the day. And I was like, I'm just going to pay for internet. It was like $12 for the whole flight. And then I was just able to knock out a bunch of just, those emails where it's like boom, boom, boom. You can just like send quick responses. So yeah, going back to this overarching, topic of preparing to go out of office. There's a couple of other things I wanted to talk about that I did that I think will be helpful to you. So one of the things that I did is I sent an email at the beginning of the month. So I went out of the office at the end of October, mid-October or something like that. And at the beginning of October, I sent an email to all of my active clients and anybody that would reach out to me with work. I sent an email to them to let them know, hey, just for planning purposes, I am going out of office on these dates. If you have anything that you need help with before I go out of office, let me know now, please. And, it's like a project planning email. And the person I learned this from was one of my web designers. She would send out these emails and I always was like, oh, that's a smart idea. And I like doing that. Some of my attorney colleagues do not like informing clients when they're going out of the office. They think it has like a reverse effect. But I've always had great luck with it because one of the challenges I have personally with going out of the office, the stress that it generates is I feel guilty that I'm going out of office. And I feel like, and it's an irrational feeling, right? But it is a feeling I get that I feel guilty that I'm somehow letting my clients down, that I'm going out of the office, which I've never had maybe you can count on one hand the amount of times clients have barked when I go out of the office. But usually it's, high maintenance clients that, no matter what I did, they would have had an issue with it. But by notifying them and giving them that notice and opportunity to, throw at me whatever they need, that really alleviates most of my guilt. Right? I would say 95% of the guilt. And then the other 5% of the guilt I have of going out of office is, I feel guilty because I have employees. I'm like, oh, I'm out of office and they're picking up my slack while I'm out of the office. So it doesn't entirely go away, but I love the pre-email at the beginning of the month, letting them know. And then that way, if they reach out while I'm out of the office, like I already gave them notice I was going to be out. One of the other things that I did that I learned recently from another attorney colleague that I had emailed, I got her out of office message while she was out. Devora Lindemann, if you're listening to this, thank you, Devora. Her out of office message did not have a return date on it. And I love that. And I'm going to use that like for the conceivable future. I use that for this out of office message that I used for this vacation. That way I don't have people conceivably lined up waiting for me to get back to the office. Like, oh, Katie's going to be back on this Monday and I know she's back, right? I don't think they actually think that. It's just something I think that they think. So it also took away that mental barrier for me. All my out of office message said was, I don't have it right in front of me, but it basically was like, I am out of the office. If you need assistance, please reach out to X, and gave the contact information. And, thanks so much and have a great day. It's so basic and I love it. And so I would love to hear, what's worked for you, but I hope that this is helpful to you. I'm going to continue to talk about this topic of boundaries. I mean, really what it is boundaries, and being able to have a life outside of your job is so important. And we just don't get that very often in the legal industry. And it's because we are not taught how to do it. And I just think it's worth fighting for. We really do need that time away, because honestly, one of the things I did before I went out of office is I sent an email to my partner, my law partner, and my firm manager. And I said, hey, I'm going on a flight with my husband, Eric, and he also helps me run the firm. He's our operations manager. He has, he has a lot of important details about the business, and obviously so do I. And I basically said, if something happens, we're going to be on the same flight, here's instructions on what to do. And I realized, I'm like, the things just keep moving without us. We are not, like, our lives are just a blip on the radar of time. And it really, it's not worth it to grind and grind and grind without a break, because other people are taking breaks and we need it. We really do need it to have a fulfilling life. So please fight for it. Please keep working on boundaries and having a life outside of your business, your legal career, your job, whatever, if you're not in the legal industry. It's just so worth continuing to try to do that. So if this episode was helpful to you, I'd love it if you could share it with somebody who could benefit from it. I would love it if you could leave a review. If you're listening on iTunes, I'd love it if you could leave a review there, or Amazon Music, or whatever your podcast medium of choice is. And I will talk to you next time. Take care.